So I was sleeping after a long day of work and got a Discord message. Come to find out it was a VOD submitted by an Ascendant free subscriber. So I decided to give it a watch, only to see mistakes upon mistakes, and thought to myself, if Ascendants are playing like this, then there's a big issue. Do you spot anything wrong with this play? Let me break it down for you. Your team does a great job to get the bomb down and have a distinct numbers advantage. But just like in any ranked game, players become greedy and complacent and end up losing rounds because of it. You have no idea on the whereabouts of the Brim and Sova. They could be flanking as there's no trip place, or could be pushing through spawn. And instead of playing in a position that allows you to freely exit, you decide to make things harder by positioning yourself here. Not only is this a tough headshot, but it's 145, meaning you can't one-shot any of them, and it's highly likely they'll have full armor. You missed the initial shot, and in this situation you're praying the enemy whiffs just like you. But had you been here, you would have had the option to fall back and use your teammate's utility such as Yoru Flash to play off. But the fact that you were fully in the open meant once you missed, you were screwed. And it immediately went from a 4 versus 2 to a 3 versus 2 to a 2 versus 2. And before you know it, the round's lost. And just like that, you can see how a small snowball turned into something extraordinary. Good idea with the satchel, but you could have been more efficient by already placing the satchel slightly before the barriers, and instead of using that time to throw the satchel. Let's take Scream as an example. Look at how he places his satchel before and behind him and immediately explodes. Let's look at the way you did it and compare it to Scream using our state-of-the-art camera. This also highlights one of the many benefits of watching high-level pros on agents you play, as you'll notice and pick up on these small little tips. Several glaring issues in the opening sequence of the round. The lack of sage means planting here is very challenging, and there isn't a cover for the planter. Whenever you don't have a sage on bind, it's important to get shower control. Without it, you end up making it hard to plant the bomb or even win the round, as you end up stalling and allowing the enemies to rotate or take map control. When you do take shower control, the brimstone needs to smoke like this as opposed to doing the default way, as it denies the enemy vision of the site but allows the teammates coming from shower to protect the planter. You dying like this could have all been avoided had you called for an A split. This is an unfortunate end to the round, but where simple communication even from yourself could have helped them win the round. For example, an enemy takes a teleporter and right after the trip tags an enemy, followed by the brimstone killing the Viper. So you confidently deduce that all 3 enemies are coming from this area, and the final confirmation was the brimstone TPing. But your chamber was under the impression there's an enemy in CT whilst leaving his back exposed to garden. Had you paid attention, you could have easily relayed that to your Yoru or chamber. Your goal is to reach Immortal, so it's these little things that you need to sharpen on, especially communication based. Following the back of last round, the lack of communication is clearly evident. A simple look at the economy indicates you're not on the same page, as some of you seem to be full buying and the others are ecoing, meaning you're going to make it hard to win this round and the next. A call to eco would have reminded the brimstone to save. See, this right here is what I like to call brilliant crosshair placement. Understanding that more than likely an enemy will peek and having his crosshair exactly like this, so all the heavy lifting is done by his crosshair, requiring just a simple mouse click. How many of you are pushing this exact position, but instead of having a crosshair like this, end up having it like this, and when the enemy peeks you have to rely on a flick, and we all know flicking isn't reliable. So keep this in mind, just like this raise, have your crosshair perfectly so that when the enemy peeks, it's literally on their head and it requires a simple mouse click. This makes zero sense. You use a satchel for no reason on an enemy that you suspect is here. But why? That satchel is going to do absolutely nothing to the enemy. You've got your ultimate, and a simple double satchel will allow your team to get onto the side and almost guarantee a kill, or at least create pressure for your team to push off. But you decided to waste both of your satchels, and when you did ult, you died for free. Even if the Brim ulted, had you had even one satchel, you could have done this. You spot the Sage in triple and immediately she gets ulted. Think of it logically. What do you think she'll do? She's going to swing out of the ult, right? She's not going to peek like this or jiggle or jump peek. Where should you position your crosshair when you know someone's going to swing? That's right, further out. So you'll run into your crosshair for a simple tap or burst. but your mistake was holding tighter than you're capable of and it resulted in you flicking. You had the right crosshair position at first but decided to reposition your crosshair closer. It seems ridiculous to notice all this in the midst of a round, but that's where VOD reviewing comes in. The next time our RAZE student encounters a similar play, he will have his crosshair in a more suitable position. This is self-explanatory. We both all know that playing this position is a recipe for disaster, especially in a 2 vs 1. Turning your back to such a common area is asking to be killed. Let's break it down. It's a 2 vs 1. You have no idea on the whereabouts of Sage, but what you do know is she's in this part of the map, with A site locked down with Chamber holding the cross and a chip covering short. See what Chamber's doing? He's isolating an area with his chip and holding the shower's cross, and if he whiffs, he can just fall back to lamps. Granted, he does have a trip, but you can apply the same fundamentals, and that's covering 2 areas at once by essentially playing in a position that makes it impossible for the Sage to get onto the side. For instance, holding this spot in elbow makes it so the Sage has to cross your vision to get onto the side, or you can jump spot backside clearing garden and hooker. Remember, the minimap is your best friend, so always use it and identify the areas you're threatened from. If you made it this far and found the video insightful, help me out by leaving a like and sharing it with your friends that can benefit from this message. And as always, until next time.